This is your spoiler warning. You have until Francesca bows to leave. So I'm assuming you've watched Season 3 Part 1 already. So now that it's just us members of the Ton here, good morning, universe! So Bridgerton Season 3 Part 1 just came out on May 16th. So far, this season seems to be featuring Absolute Shoulders, Evie Trinket, oh wait, that's the Queen of England, and Lady Danbury in white, which really threw me off for some reason. All to say, I think the season is looking pretty darn good, and depending on how Part 2 plays out on June 13th, which I'll be watching right after traumatizing myself with Episode 1 of The Boys Season 4, I am so excited. Let's go through Bridgerton Season 3 Part 1, plotline by plotline, because there are no shortage of those this season. Also, I watched all of Bridgerton for the first time recently and have not read the books. This review is limited to my subjective opinion as a member of one of the show's primary target audiences. Romantically minded young adults who didn't know that Hunger Games Capital Corps x Regency Corps was their new aesthetic obsession. The Penelope and Colin plot. I assume this pairing is the endgame given that a Bridgerton marriage has been the main event of each season so far. Penelope seems to be a rather polarizing character. I find myself drifting between fondness and, honestly, a bit of ambivalence. Regardless, though I'm wary of makeover scenes since many of my childhood favorites, like Princess Diaries or Miss Congeniality, I still love these films by the way, play into what I think are some narrow-minded ideas of what attractive femininity looks like, a la the classic glasses removal to reveal the beauty beneath the transparent glass. All to say, the changes Penelope makes to her looks and wardrobe are not so Jurassic that we don't see our girl anymore. But instead it feels like she finally came into her own. And also, unlike my other two examples, she had creative direction over her own transformation. Penelope has always hated yellow. And redhead x cool colors like green is just, chef's kiss every time. The changes to her hairstyle feel much more flattering on her. So yes, I'm obsessed with this reveal scene. It's not too noisy, but instead classic and authentic to the character. Now let's talk about her marriage prospects. I actually liked Lord Debling. He's not a perfect match for Penelope, but they have witty conversations together when she's comfortable being herself, and he offered her a comfortable but perhaps lonely life. Though it was a bit bitter when he retracted his proposal upon realizing her feelings for Cullen, I still think a non-love but companionable marriage might have been an interesting avenue given how often the characters talk about non-love marriages. On the flip side, Penelope is romantic, and I wish her to find a happy love marriage in this non-historically accurate marriage market. It is on this aspect that Colin as the main candidate annoys me a little. He gets to do whatever he wants as a man, and his main redeeming quality to me is that Penelope thinks he's great. I was cringing a little bit at all the girls fawning over him this season, and we have to talk about that one scene. The scene when Colin paid 2 women to keep him company for the night, and then decides to have them entertain each other while he watches. That is problematic. This is our first scene with a girl-on-girl kiss in this show, and I think we can do a little more for girl-girl representation than literally enacting the male gaze for a man's physical gratification. This sort of performance for voyeuristic gratification is not only not representation, but is actively degrading towards lesbians in the queer community. Anyways, about Colin and Penelope's relationship. The confession at the end of episode 4 between the couple irked me a little bit, given that Colin robbed her of the romantic confession she's dreamed of and instead left it ambiguous whether he just wanted her physically or if he loved her and wanted to marry, which he does clarify with a blasé passing comment, but I wish he'd taken a little more ceremony, you know? Penelope wanted that. Penelope deserves that. After finishing episode 4, my friend turned to me and said, "What's the cliffhanger? Because typically if you have 2 parts in your show, you want to end on like a good hook." I also raised a brow. It seemed that Penelope and Colin are happy. And then I remember, Colin wants to destroy Whistledown for defaming his sister and Penelope, and I imagine that the reveal in part 2 is going to go something like, given the distinct lack of chill among the Bridgerton boys, then BB3 will come around and support women-owned business. I hope. Eloise and Cressida side story. I have always had a soft spot for Cressida. I love the elite dance mom costuming of her and her mom, like they look like they're about to pay off the judges and then pirouette away. Cressida has been a rather flat, mean character throughout the series, but there have been hints of the pressure she's under, and seeing that get fleshed out a bit more has been really, really fun. She wants friends but struggles to get them, and she is kind of trying to be a nicer person this season. Her parents treat her like a devaluing prize horse, and her shoulders are soon going to felicitate the first moon landing 150 years too early unless she finds a husband to buy her new clothes. At first I was like, Cressida and Eloise would never be friends. And then it starts to make sense. Both feel trapped in their roles. It has been sad to see Eloise sort of going along with the Ton stuff without her spark from the previous seasons, and though she's only 19, I appreciated that she acknowledged that her previous rebellions did not really have tangible impact, and I hope that she'll become a real force of social change in future seasons and discover what a happy future looks like to her. Watching episode 1 felt like Francesca's story was going to be the main plot despite Penelope being on the poster, but then the show quickly pivots back to Penelope. Honestly, 2 minutes in, and definitely 2 minutes prematurely, I thought perhaps Francesca might be an LGBT character, given that she could either be maybe ace or a lesbian. But as I continued watching, it seems she's most likely going to end up in a heterosexual pairing, and she's probably just not as enthused by the Tons drama, of which John Sterling so far seems like a quirky but amiable match, given their seemingly mutual love of music. I've seen some discourse online interpreting Francesca as an autistic character, but I'm not a member of that community and cannot speak to autistic experience, though greater neurodiverse representation would be a wonderful addition to all popular media, this one included. Next, the Featherington debacle. I've come to enjoy these flawed characters, especially Portia. Though she's awful to Penelope, she does seem to want each of her daughters to be happy, if only her vision of happiness wasn't limited by her traditional marriage values and closed-minded perceptions of her own kids. This season, the fake documents she produced as a solution at the end of last season have come under suspicion. And I think the problem honestly won't fester any further after either Philippa or Prudence has a baby boy. Or Penelope at this point. Though predictable, the scene where it's revealed the 2 elder siblings do not in fact know how to make a baby was hilarious and a nice continuation on the constructed ignorance around such matters for women in the show, as suffered by Daphne in season 1. There is also the plot about Will and Alice Mondrich suddenly coming into wealth and entering society. Though the idea of keeping your old passions versus adhering to expectations of your newfound life is compelling, it feels a little bit bland and without tension, since the couple is really great together and figures things out together. I did find it a bit odd that someone as strong as Alice advocated they should sleep in separate rooms as husband and wife, but nothing really disagreeable blew up out of it. Unless Alice suddenly sells the bar out from under Will or something, which I doubt she would do, there doesn't seem to be a major source of tension yet. But overall, happy to see these 2 lovely people get more screen time, but it's not the most gripping side plot. Next, let's discuss Violet and her mysterious new friend, Marcus. I'm not yet sure where this is going, but out of everything that's happened this season, my friends and I were most excited at the unexpected prospect of a new love interest for Violet. We don't honestly get that many depictions in media of moms that are both active, important characters and just, good moms. Violet is definitely a big favorite of mine, and I wish her all the happiness. Yet, Lady Danbury does not meddle without reason, and her aversion to Marcus makes me wary. Speaking of Lady Danbury, I have a soft spot for sharp-tongued, powerful female characters with age, wisdom, and respect to their name. Not only does Lady Danbury continue to feel plot-relevant and influential despite having few personal stakes in the game aside from her friendships, she remains the scene stealer in her every appearance, and her styling is one of my favorites. Speaking of style, this season has more shoulder showing and prettier sleeves in my opinion. And no, I do not care about historical accuracy in a silly romantic drama where women try not to wear the same dress twice and everyone gets a love match despite how every older person reiterates their rarity. I know there are other subplots I could touch on, but writing this script, I realized there are actually too many. The distinct differentness of this season compared to others, I think was in part due to this lack of focus. I, for one, prefer having multiple subplots because it gives audiences more of a choice if there are characters they're not as fond of, and helps with the redundancy of slow-paced, repetitive, petty drama, which I feel seasons 1 and 2 do suffer from a little bit. To end things off, I binged part 1 because I thought it was pretty good, and I am very excited for the continuation of Violet's plot. I am ready to fangirl over everything Lady Danbury and Alice Mondrich wear, and a little apprehensive on Pollen. But I certainly look forward to more Bridgerton happy endings. Feel free to share your predictions for part 2 below. Bye-bye!